watch her put her high heels on. She's going out, snort a fat line, she's gone. And I'm in doubt of whether she's a comeback home. In this town, Hollywood will eat your soul and spit you out like.
Now,
and we are in this bitch.
Almost
Back at it again.
2 in like 10 days. That's pretty good.
Yeah, man. We gotta, when you pointed out how long it had been since our last ones, I wanted to like at least get like a few back to back, so that like if there are people still listening, I feel like the reason people like Rogan have so many people continuously listening to him is because he provides them with consistent content. And then if imagine how many
he provides too much.
He does. But imagine if Rogan, right during the crescendo of his podcasting career, imagine if he took like a 2-month sabbatical. Like it would never have become what it is today.
Drop off as soon as you're the hottest.
Yeah. It would have never been. So it's part of what makes him so successful. Obviously, he's a great interviewer.
I have to listen like far and few between for those. Like I saw. I'm drawing a blank on a name right now. His like boy, his best friend, bald dude,
Brendan Schaub,
white dude, bald.
Oh, Bill Burr.
Yeah, Bill. He was on there the other day, and I saw that. I got the notification. I was like, okay, I gotta listen to that one. Like that's just one I have to listen to.
Yeah,
but dude, the alien one that happened before him.
I'm listening to that right now.
Yes, me too. I'm about halfway because I have to rewind it multiple times. I gotta watch the movie, but now I'm gonna wait till I finish the podcast before I watch it. It was on Netflix. It's called The Phenomenon.
I've never seen it.
Yeah, it was. Well, it just came out. Excuse me. This year, and I swear it was on Netflix. I had it on my fucking list on Netflix, and as soon as I listen to this podcast, I go to Netflix. It's gone, and you got to rent it now for $5.
Oh my god, from Amazon.
But I'll do it. I don't care.
Yeah,
aliens. But also, if you look up alien documentaries, there's like 6 just this year that were released. Like they're just all over the fucking place right now.
I mean, that would make sense given the recent news that's come out about them.
All the stuff that like is happening in 2020, people are not. They're like, we don't have time. Aliens are normally cool, but we don't have time for aliens this year. We're like, make that a 2021 thing. After the vaccine happens or whatever, after herd immunity, whatever happens, we don't got time for alien shit right now.
Yeah, man. I mean,
people are just so ready to move on to the next thing. They're like, yeah, aliens. But what about this? What about something else? What about what Cardi B said yesterday?
Yeah. You know what? I was listening to this one guy on Rogan, and I forget his name. He's the guy who came on with the book promoting that we need 1 billion people in America. And
I think I listened to that one too, or part of it.
Yeah, so I was listening to him, and he said something interesting. He said, shit, what were we just talking about?
Aliens? 2020?
Okay. So
people moving on quickly from things?
Yep. So it made me think about, he made a comparison to, in 1918, there was a Spanish flu, and then it was followed by like the Roaring 20s how there was a sudden boom. Well, I don't think it's sudden. It's like millions of people died. People were staying in their homes, not spending money. And then the minute that shit was over, there was just this explosion of productivity, of consumption. And okay, so they stopped there. And I acknowledge that something similar is going to happen here. But wasn't that immediately followed by the Great
Depression? Yeah, I was just getting ready to say that time frame doesn't seem great what it's leading up to. I'm pretty sure that was in the 20s or late 20s, right?
Yeah, in the 30s. And I was like, hold up. I thought, like, if I remember history correctly, that great boom was immediately followed by one of the most crippling falls of the economy we've ever experienced in human history. Like, is that going to happen? Will there be some massive rebound effect where people go so gung-ho into buying stuff that there's going to be an immediate reverberation from that? Like, well, you couldn't afford that. You couldn't have done this. Like, I wonder whether that's going to be true of us as well.
Yeah, I mean, and history repeats itself, right? Isn't that the saying? So,
it's crazy to think about.
I mean, we already went through like it wasn't called a depression, but 2008 was
recession.
Yeah, recession. I mean, it's Doesn't a recession come before depression?
Well, it's all cyclical. So if you study economics, there's a recession pretty much, they say, at least every 8 years, you're going to have a recession. It's just the natural contracting and expanding of the economy, right? But it's just the significance of that contraction or expansion that makes the difference. And what was unique about 2008 is that contraction was significant because one of the main things in which we hold our money, housing, completely crashed for a lot of people. And then all of a sudden you had a lot of people. And then, oh man, I could get so deep into that because what they did is they created this thing called, so it hurt people obviously because they could no longer afford their homes, but where it hurt investors and financiers is they created these things called CDOs, called collateralized debt obligations. And what they did is if I told you to invest in this mortgage on its own, and I thought this person was a shady character and could probably default on their mortgage, that would have a rating of like whatever rate, like you can get AAA.
Big Short.
Yeah, you could get like a AAA rating, or you could get like, I forget what the lowest rating is, right?
It's a great movie.
It's really good. But like all of this stuck in my brain because I studied this shit.
It was wild.
And so what they did is so fascinating is that if I sold this mortgage individually, it was a shitty asset. But if I got a bunch of them together and then sold that, it's a new thing. I could put a AAA stamp on that, and voila, I've made tons of money.
Yeah.
And then if you sell in that bundle, if 70% of the people in that bundle default on their mortgage, all of a sudden you have a very serious problem, which is where the banks experienced the hardship as well.
The bubble popped in 2008.
Yep, on both sides, for the people and for the banks. It was just a huge clusterfuck. And that's, I'm, as someone who leans conservative, I'm typically for deregulation. I'm like, look, let the market sort itself out. But there are some few key ways in which regulation is necessary to prevent things like that from happening, because they created these new financial instruments that were so complex that only like 10 people in the world can understand them. And they ran rampant with them.
Yeah. I mean, that's a good way to get it by people if they don't understand it.
Yeah. Dude, and nobody, if you don't know something, nobody's obligated to tell you.
No, you got to learn on your own.
That's how the world works. Like, nobody's like...
There are a lot of people that act like offended, though. You didn't tell... Why would I? Yeah, well, that's up to you, man.
Like, why would I... especially if it gives me an advantage over you.
Oh, God. You would love Billions. You would love Billions. The show on Showtime.
Yeah,
oh my God! It just how you're talking right now, and they constantly just don't tell people shit or tell them shit they think they want to hear, like in order to make the markets do what they want. But I mean, it's just ruthless and cutthroat as can be.
I love that, but I also on the flip side of it, I'm also very much for looking out for the little guy, because one of the downfalls of capitalism is that the markets can skew so much into one direction, and then a lot of people get left in the dust that are their lives ruined, and even if they wanted to find their way out of poverty, couldn't. So like, I'm all for that balancing act of like, how do we make a nation as free and prosperous as we can, while simultaneously... It's
such a hard thing to do, though. Yeah, no one does. Everyone tries to skirt that line and just be like on both sides, but it's hard.
It's so difficult. And so... jumping off of that,
making money off of people, but wanting to help them with that money, then it just is a circle of evil and good and evil and good. Like, you don't need this, but if you buy it, I'll put money back into the community, and then you'll buy it again, and I'll do that. And it's like, oh fuck, all right.
It's like, you won't benefit, but your kids might.
If I don't do it, I lose, but I also win. If I do it, I lose, but I do win as well.
Yo, I feel like there's a movie where a character goes through something like that. It's like, if I do, but if I don't, like
Catch-22.
That's constantly where people find themselves. And I know I try to be very, like we've spoken about before, with my views, political, ideological, whatever they may be, I always try to see the other side of things. I'm never one to go, capitalism is it's fantastic across the board. We need to do nothing about it. Look what it's done for America. Because I still, like, my mother lives in Southeast DC. I see poverty on levels where I'm like, legitimately.
Yeah, because it's like,
get out of that.
Yeah, and it's not, capitalism is not how you get out of that. That's unfortunately, it's like you see other countries that have different forms of capitalism, you know, like tweaks here and there. One being some sort of like universal basic income or universal health care. One of those are, I feel like, the two big ones that America kind of gets. Well, not the basic income one, but healthcare is what we get, quote unquote, dinged on when, you know, that comes up as like a worldly debate, because it's like, wouldn't you want to help everyone that you could? Yeah. But then the alternative side of that is, well, yeah, but it's going to cost me more of my hard-earned money to help these people that I don't know. And it's like, is that America? It is. Yeah. But it's not. We're on that back and forth. Bro. It's like, how do you go? Yeah, believe me, I know. Yeah, it's because so personally, I hate when I went to the doctor for a checkup, and I'm very privileged. I can take care of myself medically and stuff, but I went to the doctor to just get a checkup because I hadn't been in a long time, and I hadn't found a doctor in this area since we moved to Richmond. And it had been, you know, a year and a half. I need somebody at some point. So I went and I gave them my insurance card, and they were just like, cool, you don't owe anything, no cover pay. And go in, do the exam. That, you know, I told you I had a itch in my ear. She was just like, you're good, nothing in there. I was like, good, no bugs in the ear. Like, she didn't do anything special, no special treatment, just used the normal tools, hit my knee with the thing, made me kick my leg, that type of thing. It was $190 for that. And I was just like, what? And then I see things on Reddit all the time of people like saying they decided whether or not to call the 911 or the ambulance based on the fact if they could afford it or not. And it's like, should you really be choosing between your life and an ambulance ride? Yeah, like what? This shit is. But I don't have an answer. I have no answer. So, you know. All right, but I do have one thing. It's like, couldn't there be some sort of test system, some sort of tryout, some sort of opt-in? Like you say, yes, I'd like to also get taxed this small additional percentage in order to contribute towards this. Like, couldn't we do some sort of pilot program? Because we've only done it one way forever. And it works. And a lot of people are successful and make the huge amounts of money here. But at the same time, huge amounts of poverty as well.
Yeah, no, I completely, I think that could and should be done. And in parts of Canada, they did a experiment where just to one town, they gave everyone a few $1,000s on top of like whatever to supplement
UBI.
Their income.
Yeah.
They did in Canada. They did a test experiment, and obviously, I don't even need to go over the results. They're obvious. When you added money to people's lives, it significantly changed what they were capable of doing and freed them up to make real critical decisions for their life that they otherwise couldn't. But that little bit of extra money was just enough to really help their lives out. And so I'm all for I'm all for, at least like you said, can we just let's take some place in Arkansas where it's destitute.
My thoughts exactly.
It's destitute out there.
And see how it changes their lives.
They have nothing to
do. A year or 2 year even program.
Exactly. We know how OxyContin and the pill mills have absolutely decimated those communities. Let's go in there and let's just fucking try something. Anything, dude. Yeah. Literally anything. Anything, bro. Yeah. And let's see can we extrapolate that to an even larger portion and keep expanding from that? Can we see if we can do something different? I'm all for that, because it does seem like we get stuck in these ruts, especially because America in general has done so great. So it's hard to go, hey, we need to think about doing something different, where it's like, what's the richest country on earth? Okay, America. Which place has the greatest where's the place where you have the greatest chance to succeed when starting from the bottom? America. And then when you go down that checklist, you're like, well, it makes a lot of people go, well, we don't need to change shit.
Yeah. I feel like that comes a lot from the top down though, as well, you know, from the people that are doing well, that have had success. Yeah, it's I don't know. You can only hope for some sort of radical change in the future that helps everyone.
Yeah,
it's just wishful thinking, but yeah,
it's because I'm a like we've gone over this before, but I'm a very there's a constrained and there's an unconstrained version of humanity, and I'm in the constrained category. I'm in the constrained group where I believe we are born we're born with these innate things about us that are deeply flawed. Like we are not born these perfect blank slates, and then the bullshit is downloaded into us. No, we are some vile, brutal.
Yeah, the development of like taking mental illness as a serious thing even shows that. Like you have no fucking clue what's firing off in this fucking thing inside here. It's so wild for everyone. And one day just somebody could snap and go the fuck off and something wild could happen, and it's like I mean, ever since that, I feel like that's only like a recent development. Obviously, we've had years of psychological studies of mental illnesses, but only recently was like mental health kind of unstigmatized, in terms of people can talk about it more openly than they used to be able to.
Dude, back in the day, like after World War II, they would say, "Oh, he couldn't shake off the war."
Yeah, shell shocked.
What?
That's what they called him. Yeah,
that was trauma.
Yeah.
Because they saw their
PTSD.
best friend get blown to bits, bro. Like,
I never understood in my life, and it was a long, I even have it over here. I have my grandfather's Purple Heart from Vietnam. Like he got shot and survived, and like he was just the hardest, kind of meanest man I ever knew. He was, and I never it didn't register in my brain till much later after he died that like, oh shit, he went through some shit. He went through a lot of shit, and I mean he had 8 kids as well, so it's he had a wild life, but it was just like you don't even think about it because it wasn't, and he didn't talk about it. It wasn't something he would like share with people. He was just the quietest, but then he could erupt type person, but just kept to himself and only told very select people about his experiences in the war. And you got to get him. He had to be wasted, like he told my dad one time, but he would only normally tell other people that had served, and my dad definitely didn't. So it's just like, as you said, it wasn't something that was really talked about, and I didn't realize till much later, like, oh shit, that probably impacted his entire life, and he just kept it all in.
Oh yeah, I mean, in a significant way, and the fact that he lived to the age that he did, was able to raise a family quite successfully, it seems like, and still do all that with this huge mental health issue lingering in the background is, again, our parents' generation and the generations before them, they were just built of different material, bro.
Yeah.
They were built of like steel.
But I think it comes from the mindset of the era as well as like what was available to them. Like medicine, not widely available to everyone. There were definitely diseases and things that came up that people had no idea what the fuck was happening to you, Sure. So I get it. Harder is a great term to describe them. Like they were just harder, and but I don't necessarily think it was like they were made harder. Like as a human, they still had the same parts, Of
course,
but they went through the struggle mentally. We always talk about. Yeah, and it was also like it was taboo to talk about it. Like you're weak-minded or whatever they would say about it. So it's interesting nowadays though that it's unstigmatized and you can discuss it, so it's become more, I guess, widely known that people, I mean, anything inside their brain can make them completely different from another human being. Like there could be still mental illnesses we don't even know about yet.
And the trillions of synapses firing, it just takes one different one to make someone very different from another human being.
Oh, yeah.
And and like you're right, that is something that's recently coming to the forefront of how much it can alter someone's state of mind. And like you said, someone could go from bad to good, and somebody can go from good to bad in the blink of an eye, and nobody has any real scientific reason as to why that happened. It can just boop, and you have no idea. Now, sometimes we know a drug did it, or a car accident did it.
A hit to the head, and then the NFL did it.
Yes. And then those are easy, but sometimes it happens to a regular Joe Schmo going...
Yeah.
And then one day, done.
That's why I'm so obsessed and have been since whenever I discovered them, serial killers. Because they are some of the most widely different people from almost like the norm, but it's not. It's like an obsession almost. Like each one's kind of different, but they all have that psychoticness that you don't get in everyday life. And even if you do, it's not like people act on that like a serial killer does. And it just, I remember learning about them in like, it had to be like 8th grade, 9th grade or something, like just doing projects on them in psychology and stuff. And it's just wild to me that it's so fascinating how their brains to me are widely different than the rest of humanity.
Yeah, I think about that a lot, and I think that's why I watch so many serial killer documentaries, and every time one is on Netflix, I mean, instantly I call my girl, like, turn down the light. They also,
for some reason, are like, they're portrayed at least as some of the smartest people, like, in terms of, because we think of law enforcement as like, okay, the bad guy, they're going to get the bad guy. They got some people on the law enforcement side that are like best of the best. They got it in their brain, like detectives, they'll figure it out. But these motherfuckers end up getting taunted sometimes by serial killers because they're just like, you're never going to figure it out. Yeah. Like, I could just do this forever.
You know, and because I'm going to make an assumption here that most of the murderers that police catch are people who murdered out of emotion or on accident.
Yeah, like a trigger.
If you murder even if it's like premeditated, to like you're a gang member and somebody shot at you, now you're going to shoot back. That's easy to make those links.
Connections,
together.
Yeah.
It's like, well, who shot at, somebody shot here, then the shot here. That narrows it down to 100 people. And then, okay, these guys, now I'm down to 50 people. So I feel like most murders that go solved are those. But then when you have that 1 in a million individual who's like, I just want to kill random people.
Well, and sometimes it's not even random. It's like, they find people that are the same. Like a lot of the times I feel like it ends up being like young men or college aged women, like in like historical serial killer cases. And it's like, what in their head made them snap against this group? Not anyone they knew specifically, but just a group of people that reminded them of like trauma in their past, or just, I don't know. And that's why they're fascinating to me. It's so fucking crazy.
I will say, through all of the research and watching of serial killers that I've done, one thing that has been quite consistent, I think I've only seen one person, and ironically, it was a woman. I've seen one person where I was like, they killed just to kill. There was nothing in their background. It was this woman on I Am a Killer on Netflix. And I forget her name. And she had just killed one guy. Okay. But she, out of all the serial killers I've seen, I was like, she did it because she enjoyed it. Like, right? Where other people, you literally, all right, start telling me about your childhood. And by the time they hit age 5, you're like, okay, I see why you're a killer.
Yeah. Okay. I see what the event that kind of started off.
I get it. Very rarely, and this happened with that woman where background is okay, no trauma, blah, blah, blah. And she was just like, I wanted to kill a guy. He was asleep and she just killed the dude. Now on the show, she acts all repentance and all that. But if you watch her, you're like, that woman is a complete psychopath. But most of the people that I've seen it has always been, you could trace it back to some point in their life that turned them into who they were. And now I'm not saying that justifies any of the actions that they made, but that gives you some insight into how do I prevent the next serial killer from being born.
Yeah. And
then here's another thing: as long as you have poverty and domestic abuse, and poverty is the link to all of that, like domestic abuse, violence in the home, child molestation. Poverty is consistent around all of those. It's like, if you could solve poverty, I know this goes without saying, but you could save a lot of lives, lives that you're not immediately thinking about. You can prevent serial killers by.
Yeah, but I don't think, I feel like I don't know if a lot of serial killers come from poverty. I don't know if that link has been made before, because I feel like there's a lot of, like, you see a lot of those, like, very sophisticated, they come off as normal, and that's how they get away with it for so long, and they don't look like, you're like a homeless person or someone who's come up rough type thing.
Yeah,
so
yeah, that's true. That's true.
I mean,
Like
for some reason, for some reason, John Wayne Gacy always comes up into my mind. The guy that was a birthday clown. It's like perfect cover for killing kids. A birthday clown. So.
Oh no, I was thinking of Ted Bundy.
Wasn't? Yeah, Bundy was the one that.
The lawyer.
Yeah, but didn't we both watch that documentary on Netflix?
Yep.
Ted Bundy, and he at one point he jumped out of the back of a second story window in a jail. It's just like this man was wild, but he did it in a way that in his head he planned it out. Remember, he constantly jumped from the second bunk in his cell to the floor to
test his feet,
like toughen his bones and his legs and stuff. It was just like, okay, I would
different.
If I got caught doing some wild, I would never have thought of that. Like, and he knew he could get away. It's just, it's just they're different people. You know who Patton Oswalt is?
Of course.
His wife, who passed away a couple years ago, apparently was key in finding the Golden State serial killer, and or Golden State Killer, I think is what they call him. But it's just nuts that like it takes people that are not necessarily law enforcement or this is not their job
to get obsessed with
to get obsessed with and track it down to where like the police already gave up years ago, decades even. The Zodiac is one of my favorite ones because of one, the movie is awesome that they did with Jake Gyllenhaal and Robert Downey Jr. But then also because they never caught him, they never found him. I feel like I gave you the book to read. Maybe I gave it to my mom to read, but it's called The Most Dangerous Animal, I think.
Yeah, you didn't get that to me.
Okay, so on the cover of the book, it's just a picture of what they thought the Zodiac Killer looked like the sketch. It's about this guy who is 100%, we'll say 99.9% sure his father was the Zodiac Killer.
Wow.
And it's the entire book is him retracing the steps and figuring out where his father, because he knows who his father was, but obviously no one knew who who the Zodiac Killer was. So he has so much more to go on if he's actually correct about it. But he ends up finding a grave in Mexico that's basically unmarked, but he figures out that's where the Zodiac Killer would be buried. But it's wild to figure that out, because once again, that's the only way anyone even came close to figuring out who the fuck he was, because he used to even send like taunting messages to newspapers and the police saying, "You're never going to find me." The reason this is stuck in my mind, because 3 or 4 days ago, they just cracked one of his codes.
What?
Not kidding. Just saw it. It's called like the 380 cipher or the 410 cipher, something like that. And someone just cracked it.
Jesus.
Right? It's nuts that it's been, 20, 30 years since that happened, and they're just now cracking the cipher that he sent to the newspaper.
Yeah, man, if you get someone who's highly motivated to kill people who they don't have an immediate connection to, it can be very hard to solve those murders, because most murders are crimes of passion or revenge or something of that nature where there is a close connection to the victim. So that's why tracking them down is a lot easier. But when you get those random acts of violence, man, those are tough.
This says Zodiac 340 cipher cracked by code experts 51 years after it was sent to the San Francisco Chronicle.
Wow. Wow.
That's
51 years.
Yeah. Yep.
And it could have had the thing that led to his capture, but you're 51 years too late, my guy.
Yeah.
That's fascinating.
The code was solved by 3 people from U.S., Belgium, and Australia. So, I mean, maybe it took till now to have all these people connected that could have never been connected based on, the internet now. So, it's nuts.
Yeah, and that's the thing about law enforcement, right? Is that there becomes this detachment once you decide to become a law enforcement official. And what I mean by that is, sure, you could be still attached to the community you're trying to serve and to do good by the people you live around. But eventually what ends up happening is you have to develop some distance between the crimes you're trying to solve and your emotion to them, even if they're people you know, right? And over time, what that makes you do is see these as just case files, because that's the most efficient way to be a policeman. You can't invest emotionally into these things, right? And that's what makes I wish there was a way for like law enforcement and the general public to work together in a more professional way, because what it takes is that obsession by someone who has a real personal connection to it, combined with some objective policing, and you combine those two things together. And I think for a lot of these, that's the most efficient way to solve these crimes. But to just give it to a detective and go, here's another case on top of the other 50 homicides you have to solve, it's tough.
All right, let me read you this part of this CNN article just about the code being broken, because it's got a lot in here about what we just talked about. So the killer was never caught, murdered 5 people in stabbings and shootings that terrorized San Francisco Bay Area in the late 1960s. He murdered 5, but he hurt many more, like, that didn't die, you know.
Okay.
The code was solved by 3 people from the U.S., Belgium, and Australia. This is what it said. I hope you are having lots of fun trying to catch me. I am not afraid of the gas chamber because it will send me to paradise all the sooner, because I now have enough slaves to work for me. The decrypted message reads, without throwing any light on the killer's identity.
Holy shit, man.
And then, oh shit. In the video posted to YouTube, Virginia web designer David Orenschak says he cracked the cipher along with Australian applied mathematician Sam Blake and Belgian Jarl van Eyck, a warehouse manager and code-breaking software engineer. So basically, they used code-breaking software. So it took until now because we didn't have the technology, I guess, until now.
Yeah. That is fascinating, man.
All right, so confirming the code-breaking achievement, the FBI said it continued to seek justice for those who were killed. The FBI is aware that a cipher attributed to the Zodiac Killer was recently solved by private citizens. The Zodiac Killer case remains an ongoing investigation for the FBI San Francisco division.
Oh, 51 years later.
Yeah, that's okay. They tweeted this out like on December 11th, so 2 days ago.
I'm going to go ahead and suggest y'all close that.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. If we're getting 51 years later, we got the private citizens solving it with no help from y'all. Maybe y'all should hire these motherfuckers.
Yeah, now there's that problem with policing in that you're never going to have enough police, you know, and you're always going to have that disconnect that I'm not personally invested, which is what makes me good in one way, but bad in another. If there was some way to combine the personal with the objective, that would probably create the most efficient policing. But then you need, I don't know what that would.
It's the issue is sharing information. Like, who can you trust? Who can you share this sensitive info with? And still get your guy or get your girl or whatever. So
and again, I just default to the police because it exists in the way it does, and it happens the way it happens for a reason.
To be their shit. It's supposed to be their job.
Like, people have probably had this conversation like we're having 100 years ago about what the police and the community should be, came to the conclusion
it's been happening since the beginning.
How it's happening right now. Smarter people came to that conclusion a long time ago. So I'm gonna just leave it alone until maybe if I come with some grand fucking thing that cracks the code, maybe. But I'm not gonna assume that I'm smarter than the people who set up the police department because they had more insight than I do.
Yeah,
right.
Very true. Very true.
And I want to
let's transition
into okay. So we've talked a lot, right? We've had differing opinions about several things. I think our primary disagreement has always been on abortion. I think that's the one where we're on 2 different ends of the spectrum, but can see each other's side. But it's the one we are, I think, the most opposite on, right?
Okay.
But recently you actually swayed me quite far in your direction, which is, so I guess that doesn't ring true anymore. And no matter what the disagreements that we've had, and even just in this conversation right now, I think people can understand that I'm not, I naturally lean conservative in my tendencies. And by conservative, I mean, like, if somebody said, do you want to make this really, really, really risky choice, it could potentially be a very high payoff, but you can lose everything in the equation. I'm risk adverse on the high end. Now, I'm willing to take certain risks, but those risks I take are pretty. People wouldn't even qualify them as risks because they're so calculated. They're risks in the sense that you don't know what will happen in life. Yeah. So by that nature, I'm a conservative. But philosophically, I would say I am very liberal. Like I believe gay people should get married. I believe if you want to cut your dick off as an adult and paste a vagina on, go for it. If you want to wear dresses, go for it. If you want to marry your dog, go for it.
I don't know if I go with that one.
I'm being tongue in cheek, but if you want to smoke weed, if you want to do cocaine, if you want to inject heroin, do it in the privacy of your own home. I don't want you doing it on the street. But look, if you want to take drugs, do it. All these liberal, progressive fronts, I'm pro. Like, my best friend is a lesbian. Like, I attended her wedding. Like, I'm. But yet, some people think I'm super conservative, and that has caused a rift in a particular relationship. Now, when I talk about this,
no names.
Now, when I talk about this, I'm gonna laugh a lot.
Okay, all right.
But I want you to know, it genuinely hurt.
Okay, all right.
It genuinely hurt because I've known this guy for 12 years. I've considered him a very good friend. He lives in Connecticut, so we don't get to see each other as much, but we see each other at least once or twice a year. His family has me over for Thanksgiving. I go spend July 4th with them. Like, they're lovely people. They have always treated me with the kindest. They ask about me all the time. They've let me crash at their house for various reasons. Just all around amazing people. So that being said, this is my guy. This is my guy, right?
All right.
So let me tell you how the text conversation begins. Keep in mind, so I text him a video to watch on September 1st. He never responds to that because it was kind of like going against the whole Black Lives Matter thing. So he never responds on. But so 10 days later, he hits me up and goes, "So do you think there was fraud in the election?" He doesn't say, "Hey, what's up, man? How you doing?"
Wait.
Family? I swear to God.
Wait, all right, hold on. You said did you say September 1st is when you texted him?
So September 1st is when I texted him this Dark Horse podcast by Brett Weinstein. It was a Black Intellectuals Roundtable where it was like it was all Black people, and it was like talking about how Black Lives Matter is some bullshit.
But then when did he respond to you?
So that's September 1st. September 10th, which is last Thursday.
Wait, you're saying September again?
Yeah, September 1st. Okay,
we're in December right now.
I'm sorry, dude.
I'm like, damn, how long ago was this?
Oh, yeah.
Sorry.
Shit. I'm bugging.
Right.
I'm looking at that
so
word.
December 1st.
So I text him that podcast September 1st. Now he comes on December 10th.
Okay.
First thing.
So it's been like 3 months, 2 months.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So there's no acknowledgement of the podcast. Like, hey, man, I watched it. I disagree with some stuff. It's interesting. Hey, but how are you doing? Hey, man, how's life?
Right.
Bruh, none of that.
Go ahead.
First literal words to me. So do you think there was fraud in the election? I'm like, holy shit, man.
That's a loaded question right away. Like, you know what that's trying to elicit.
I know what you're trying to do, bro.
And I'd probably give in right away. Like, all right, cool, we're doing this. I respond to my text.
It's okay. So, all right. So that was my initial thought. But I was like, he came so hot out the gate that I was like, all right. I was like, yo, hold the fuck up, bruh. So I said, I laughed and I said, that's so random. I said, no, I don't think there was fraud in our election. I didn't think there was fraud 4 years ago. And I don't think there was fraud this time. So I took a very neutral, Trump won 4 years ago. I'm not going to say that was fraud. He lost this time around. I'm not going to say it's fraud. I trust in our democratic process. All is good. So he responds, I've just been curious. I have a lot of Cult 45 workers, the cult of Donald Trump. They all think there was fraud. He said, like, one of them believes Trump lost and none of them believes that Biden could ever have gotten more votes than Trump and even bring Obama's vote count into the conversation. It's pretty bizarro. I said, okay. I mean, I definitely preferred him to Biden. Clearly, a majority of the country felt different in a free and democratic process, and hence, Joe Biden won. Things worked exactly how they were supposed to. Sometimes you will be governed by people you disagree with, and I'm completely okay with that because that's what makes this country fantastic.
I have a question real quick before we continue. You said his workers, is he like, he manages people and these are the people under him, or?
No, his peers.
Oh, okay. His coworkers. Gotcha. Okay. And, all right, cool.
And so, and it says he goes on, which they would agree with, but it's not like any of Biden's policies will affect you financially. I said, all right. I said, and then I go on to say, like, look, man, I don't want to be surrounded by people I agree with or people I disagree with, for that matter. I want diversity of thought. That's how we reach the best solutions. And then this is when it starts kind of getting, because in response to that, now, what do you think about that comment right there?
I like that comment. I mean, it's also, as you said, it's very neutral. Like, you want freedom of thought, and that's what we have here.
That's all.
Okay.
And the beginning of his message, LMAO. I go, all right, you're gonna go LMAO to that statement? Okay, we're gonna get into some shit. He said, so you still think those Trump supporters give a shit about finding common ground to relate to? I said, look, man, there's some things that may not affect me directly, but may affect my children, like blah, blah, blah. And he's like, it's pretty clear these days the vast majority of people who voted for him are under the frame of thought that if you don't support him, you're the enemy. I was like, yeah, those people are idiots. And he's like, and then this is when it starts taking a turn. He goes, I said, yes, those people are idiots. That should be an opportunity to change the conversation. Talk about something else. His response to that is, that's what aboutism. If Republicans were truly pro-life, they'd abolish the death penalty. I'm like, oh,
whoa,
my God, bro.
Whoa, that took a different turn. I feel like it was like, I feel like you could have, like, you were like steadily, like, you had a steady downhill slope and you were riding your bike real nice, and then all of a sudden it was a cliff, and you were just like, oh, can I fly on this bike now? That's what it seems like.
I said, what the? So I'm sitting here, I'm like, okay, we have gone from the
explain whataboutism.
So it's whataboutism is like,
I get it, but I just want to hear
hypotheticalness, living in
your response, your response is always like, yeah, but what about?
What about?
Okay,
that's what about it?
Yeah. Which, I mean, hey, sometimes you need to ask the what about, but I understand whataboutism. Yeah. Okay, just making sure.
Yes. Yeah. So I'm like, all right, dude, like, let's relax. I said, look, he picked his VP based on her sex and her color. People don't like shit like that. That is not, you're immediately telling how many people did Kamala Harris win over that were probably more qualified? And the only reason she got the job above them was because she's a black woman. That's not a country that I nor anyone else wants to live on. We are trying to get away from the fact that you're picked based on your race and your sex. Because if it can work in black and woman, it can work in white and man, white woman. It can go any way that the person in power wants the wheel to turn. So this motherfucker goes, all right, now, so keep in mind where we are there.
Yep. Gotcha.
All right. This motherfucker goes, in my book, the debate is over abortion. I said, what the fuck, bro?
The whole thing?
He left turns and goes immediately into abortion.
Yeah, okay. It's confusing. It would be a confusing conversation to be in.
It's so nutty. He goes, in my book, the debate is over about abortion. It wouldn't have to be about that if the majority of Republicans wouldn't actively try to reverse the Supreme Court on what the Supreme Court already ruled. And I'm like, okay, well, so I go, well, yeah, I mean, if you thought people were out here slaughtering babies, you take some pretty hard line tactics as well. So what I'm trying to demonstrate to him is, I'm like, I'm not pro-choice, I'm not pro-life. What I'm trying to say here is, like, you got to be able to see the other side, man. Like, don't chalk these people up as fucking just straight up idiots. And this is what he was doing consistently throughout this conversation. He's
generalizing, a lot.
He's generalizing to the whole thing, right? And I said, It's a scientifically proven that the thing growing in a woman's body is not conscious or able to perceive pain. So now we get into a lengthy debate about when life.
What's a fetus and what's a baby?
Yes. My God. Okay. So let me pause right here for a second.
That conversation never never ends. It doesn't.
Okay, Andrew, do you want to know what my response to him was on that?
Yeah.
Let me tell you how down the line I was going. I said, and I think it's a mental retardation to see that both sides have legitimate arguments. I said, what that clump of cells is, no matter how you want to perceive it, eventually becomes a person, just like you or I, if given the opportunity to see its logical conclusion. And I said, basically, what I was trying to say, and I said another text where I was like, what we're arguing right now is where the fundamental disagreement has always lied and will continue to. Me and you are not about to argue and figure this out now.
It's been forever.
We're like, dude,
since I can remember, every single election has had that as a topic.
Every single one. And before you and before your parents, it's always been a thing. We will always be fucking arguing about this. And then he got into this whole thing about the debate about consciousness and when it begins. I was like, bro, we don't understand consciousness. And he's taken shrooms. He's done a bunch of drugs. I'm like, all right. He's like, we know that consciousness starts when the brain turns on. Okay, fair. Let's put a pin in that. Okay. You've taken shrooms and you've gone on some massive trips. There are some times, right, when you're on shrooms where you don't feel there is no difference between the earth and you. Like you are melted into one with everything. So, and I think there's some truth in that existence. So that means consciousness it may exist outside of yourself. It may exist outside of your brain being on.
Well, we have no idea. Yeah.
And he was trying to argue that we did. I was like, bro.
Your head exploded.
I was so mad. I was like, are you sitting here arguing that we understand consciousness? What the fuck is wrong with you, bro? So crazy, dude.
That's like what we just talked about earlier with serial killers. Like, nobody understands the brain. I would venture to say we know more about the oceans on our Earth than we know about our brains, and we know about, I think it's like 10% of the whole ocean on Earth we've explored. You know, like we don't have any fucking clue what this shit does. Or when you're conscious, what consciousness even is, as you said, if it is wholly just for people or if it's a thing that we can become a part of, that we,
like we are,
like is out here somewhere existing. Actually, that brings up a whole other thing, because like maybe there's a lot of people that still haven't merged with it.
With their consciousness.
Oh, what the fuck? Is that stupidity? Is that? Oh, okay. Oh, I didn't think Sunday morning would involve this, but here we go.
But those are the things I think about. And I'm like, so I'm not even thinking about abortion and the consciousness and when life starts from like a scientific. I'm like, you've done mushrooms, you've done drugs. I'm thinking about this from a psychedelic perspective, in a one with earthness perspective. Like, consider that maybe your consciousness is out here waiting for you to be born, and then occupies you. Like,
that'd be sweet.
We don't know. We don't fucking know, dude.
This shit could all be a simulation. Maybe they didn't update the drivers on you yet, and you don't have. That's your consciousness, and you know you got an 8-year-old driver over here, and you're just. Then you get updated one day, and you're like, "Oh shit, my whole life changed."
Look, and then he gets into the whole thing, and this is where abortion kind of bothers me a bit, right? So he reverts back to like we need abortion needs to be there, because he says we can be adults and make decisions about how our life will proceed, and to force someone to have a child is condemning most people to not being able to properly sustain that child, further adding to the massive poverty problem. And this is a big thorn in my side when people argue for abortion. You're basically making the case for killing poor kids.
Yeah, it's not a good argument by any means. It's still, whether anyone likes it or not, it's still part of it. But it's not a good argument for why you should allow it and why you shouldn't.
Exactly.
Oh, you're not financially ready?
Kill your kid.
Yeah, it's not. But at the same time, it's an option still.
Right. But what I'm saying,
it's all like the moral part of it, like whatever the moral issue is for either killing or not killing, or aborting or not aborting, is it's so up to the individual that's one of the big reasons no one will ever agree on it.
Yeah.
It's so up to what your mind thinks about that.
Right. And what is a huge thorn in my side is that we know that people have used this excuse to kill off groups of people. They're too poor. We need to eradicate them. They shouldn't be reproducing. Do you know that's why abortion was started to begin with? Abortion was started with the specific purpose of killing black children. It was specific. Look it up, the origins of abortion. And also, if you look at the number, so if you've ever looked at the black population of America, you've noticed that it has been extremely stagnant. Like Spanish people have come and took off, Indian people have come and took off. Do you want to know why the black population is so stagnant? It's because the people who get the most abortions, ding, 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 black people. Most black people are lost to abortion. We are not, our population is not allowed to grow because we're saying, people come to us, you're poor, don't have that kid, abort it. Where the reason Spanish people are able to get ahead, because they have a ton of kids. You help do this, you go get a job, you go do this. As a unit, we'll make this shit happen. Not, I'm going to kill off my seed until I'm in a great place to have it. That's never how we've done it in history, ever. People, do you know, if people had to be in a good spot before they had kids, bruh, me and you wouldn't exist.
Yeah, I mean, no, not at all. I definitely wouldn't.
You know what I'm saying?
My parents were so in debt when I was born.
Bro, our parents were like what? If they had to be in a perfect scenario to have a kid, we would have been fucked. If LeBron James' mother had to be in a perfect spot to have him, he would have never existed. The majority of people in this world that exist today exist because their parents said, fuck it, I'm going to figure it out. No matter what happens, I will figure it out. And the reason our population in America, why the birth rate is declining, is because people are now saying, I have to be in the exact right spot before I get pregnant and have a kid. That is not true. I promise you, you are capable of.
Well, it's funny because it seems that that's been the main reason for them probably well before what you're talking about. This is talking about the 12th century in Japan, because there were so many famines and such high taxation by the oppressive government during that time that was one of the main reasons people were doing it. And it's like, it's back then, it's just like, holy shit, people were trying to have abortions then. Yeah. When, as we said, it's like the further you go back, the harder people were. It's just like, it must have been real fucked up then.
Brutal.
But it also talks about like, they actually had a lot of non-brutal ways of doing it. Like,
okay.
Like in Egypt, like they would have people weightlift or paddle or climb.
Oh.
Or diving was a common. I guess diving's not good. I don't know.
Yeah.
It seems weird, but I mean, I was just scanning it for like an actual reason, and that seems to be the only one super, like a really long time ago.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's with the technology, the thing is back then they didn't have any type of technology to make sure that it, didn't hurt the mother. Like they could abort a fetus and still kill the mother. But it's also like, I mean, there were definitely times I'm sure that it was used or more so developed and the innovations within it because of worry of the health of the mother based on the baby. You know what I'm saying? Because women have died in childbirth for centuries.
Oh, of course.
And maybe they thought that, maybe the mother's more important than the child at some point. I don't know. I don't claim to understand the reasons.
Technically, it's true because as a mother, you can have another baby, but a baby taking care of itself and having another kid.
Plus, as a male baby, it doesn't. Yeah.
Yep. You see, so the mother is more important than the kid. I'm in agreement there with pro-choice people, but I will say that worries me when I trace the history of abortion in America back to the fact that this white woman brought it about in order to eradicate black children, and the people who have gotten the most abortions in America by a large margin have been black women. I'm always like, for you progressives that are so pro-choice, I'm like, look at the abortion rates of white people. It ain't like that. White people get pregnant, they keep their kids. Spanish people get pregnant, they keep their kids. People are so pro-choice because they're basically saying, we're pro-choice so you black women can kill your babies and not fuck up our streets. It's so fucking it crawls under my skin. That's why it's so hard for me, even though I know there's scenarios in where it's like, look, this woman's, she's about to die, she has to get an abortion. I get that, but man, outside of those reasons, it's so hard to me for accept, because I know the history of this shit, and I know it was specifically purposed as a tool against minorities.
Japan apparently is known worldwide for its acceptance of abortion. I had no idea. I didn't know. I mean, I would think China, not Japan.
Yeah, no, I've heard that same thing.
Because China, up until like in the 1950s, they made abortion illegal. But China always had the, what was it, 2-child policy, 3-child?
China was one child. China was one child policy.
Yeah,
and then they just made it 2.
But they said, okay, this is wild. It's estimated that 2/3 of Japanese women have an abortion by the age 40, partially due to former government restrictions on contraceptive pills on public hygiene grounds. So basically, they didn't make birth control legal, but they made abortion illegal.
Yeah,
that seems a little backwards.
Yeah.
Anyways, continue. We got in a rabbit hole on that one, and I wanted to look up the history of abortion. So,
yeah, again, we've gone into abortion and lengthy debate, but do you see what sticks something in my craw when people use the excuse that, hey, we need abortion so we can kill poor kids. Poor mothers need. It's always we need abortion for poor people. That's always the argument. I'm like, that is some fucked up shit. It's just so fucked up. So I tried to explain it to him, and again, he didn't get it. So, I went on to how many children? Yeah, how many of these children would be born into destitution? The same fucking argument. Blah 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 blah. Freedom of choice to do with your body. So then we got into the consciousness, whatever. Okay. And so that means, so yeah, and I just keep bringing the consciousness thing up because I'm just like, bruh, you have no fucking idea. All right, so
claiming he knows consciousness.
Yeah.
How dare you?
I just 100%. The reason most Republicans even use it as a talking point is they know the more, and this is him speaking, they know the more ignorant part of their constituency, the vast and then in parentheses he goes, the vast majority, by the way, will eat that shit up and let them do anything they want, regardless of how it affects them, as long as they validate their values. And again, this was a constant theme that he kept bringing up. Never once did I criticize him for being a Democrat. Never once did I criticize him for being liberal. Never once did I call him ignorant and stupid because of his values. But over and over and over again, he kept calling Republicans, quote unquote, the vast majority of ignorant, stupid, and vile people.
More generalizations.
Oh my God. And I'm like, what gives you the right to characterize a group of people in that way? And no wonder Trump became president.
My dad's a Republican. He's so fucking nice, and he's very smart. You can't generalize like that. And yeah, you're right. This is like the third or fourth time I've heard since you started reading the text that he's done that.
Yeah. Your dad is and you know, this is what's part of the reason I'm moving to Richmond? What's part of the reason that you feel so good and at home living in Richmond? These people you are surrounded by and that I will be surrounded by are mostly conservative. But why do we yet feel so fucking at home and so at ease? More so than we did in a place that's 100% liberal.
There's just too many people in Nova for me. But I mean, I get what you're saying, but I mean, it's still, that's somewhat of a generalization on the people of Nova and liberals in general.
But what I'm asking is, I'm not making a gross generalization. I'm asking why. Why is it that I'm seeking to go to a place that is majority conservative and I feel more at home. I feel more at ease.
But also getting away from cities tends to be more conservative, more towards cities. Like if you were in Richmond, that's going to be much more liberal than outside.
Of course. But what I'm saying is that I'm still seeking that out. And why? Why am I seeking that out versus a place that, yes, has more people, but then also has that great thing of liberalness? Why am I moving away from that and towards a more conservative, traditional family values type of culture? Why? I think most people don't want to think about that. And where I think he gets it confused is because he already has that, because he lives in one of the most, I think he lives in the most affluent. Right. He lives in the most, he lives in Connecticut, which is very liberal, and he lives in where he grew up and where his parents owned a house is the most affluent place in America.
Oh yeah, I know. Yeah, Connecticut for sure, in that area.
Those houses,
I know,
made no sense.
Yeah,
when I spent a night over at his house, I got lost in his house. Lost in his house.
I don't have that experience with someone from that area, but I do understand that for people in the Nova area, in terms of like people that grew up in affluent neighborhoods and with everything, and their parents are still one family unit, but they are, very liberal in their views. And it's, you see, maybe the growing up with more makes you skew that way a little more. I don't know.
I think so. I think the more money you have, because I think what now happens is that rich people trade. They show their status based on values, not based on material things anymore. And here's the theory. I read this theory somewhere before, and it's the theory I've adopted because it makes a lot of sense to me. Because previously, you could separate yourself from most people by having the latest and greatest stuff because it was too hard for other people to afford that. Now, I can own a Tesla. You could very easily own a Tesla. You could own a BMW, a Mercedes-Benz. Outside of a Ferrari, you could pretty much own any one of those cars that you want. So for someone who has $1 million more than you to truly separate themselves from you, they can't do it through material anymore. So what people do, they adopt values only rich people can.
What is that called again? What signaling? Virtue signaling?
Virtue signaling.
Yeah.
That's how they demonstrate their wealth.
Yeah.
If I say to you, BLM,
fucking social media, Jesus
men
Christ.
are women, women are men, then I'm signaling to you I got money.
I think that's the whole reason I got off of social media was, God damn it, what is the word we just used? And I fucking forgot it. Virtue signaling. Yeah, that was the whole reason, because it's like that's what it seems all it is now. It's just like who can have the better view or the most woke view or the least woke view or whatever you're going for,
And it's fun. I guarantee you, if you took a stock of the people who were the most liberal on your social media, I bet they were the people with the most money. I'm willing to put money on it.
Maybe.
I'd put all of my money on it.
I would say, this is just going back to Facebook because I haven't had it since the first election with Trump, 2016. Mm-hmm. I'm pretty sure, at least then, the people that were virtue signaling were the more conservative people.
Okay.
Because I tended to get in, because I wouldn't, write comments, whatever. I would just share, usually I use Facebook to share an article I was reading at CDW instead of working. That's what I would do. And I wouldn't even put a comment. I just share it like, hey, I'm reading this from Vice or wherever the fuck. Like, I was on Vice all the time back then because it had wild shit about shrooms just daily. And I was reading at work. I thought it was amazing. So I'd share stuff. And then I'd get comments, I remember, from mostly like conservative friends. Like, but also, that was when Obama was in office.
Yeah.
When Trump was in office, it kind of flipped. Yeah. And maybe now it's about to flip the fuck back.
Yeah.
So are we just going to do this every 4 years where the most woke people are, but the most virtue signaling people are the people that are not in office at that time?
Well, I will say about a particular, yes, it's always going to flip about who the loudest voices are. When it's a Democrat in office, it'll be Republicans. When it's a Republican in office, it'll be Democrats.
Complaints are much more heard than like praise, obviously.
Yes. But what I'm saying is that these typical set of values that we're talking about, like BLM, pro-choice and whatever, all of that, the people who hold these values the most adamantly are affluent people.
Okay.
And it is like, and it's become a trend to show your social status, your wealth, by espousing these values because they do not affect you. So you can get, like, this is why rich women are all pro-choice, but they don't get abortions themselves. Rich women are very traditional. very
but can't you support? I said support. God damn! Can't you support? God damn it! Can't you support something that you don't like? That you don't subscribe to yourself, or you're not impacted by yourself, but it through empathy or
technically, but it's why. Why? Because typically you got to really
if you're doing it publicly,
doesn't directly affect them
publicly,
that is always like, if it doesn't,
look what I'm doing.
Why are you supporting this? If it has nothing to do
it's also the same as like if say, hey, you're going to feed the homeless today, like you're going to pass out food at a shelter or something, and then you go back and you're like passing out food at the shelter today, got a selfie with them. It's like that's because you want a bunch of likes and comments to how good you are, you're so selfless.
We're gonna get just wait in this conversation. We're getting to some good shit. So he made some arguments about wanting to change something to the Constitution. I said progressives progressives want to say, why do we keep adhering to this old ass document, and it needs to be updated for 2020. But when it comes to abortion, they want to say, hey, the rule's already been made, never touch it again. Now that's some hypocrisy for you right there. So, and then we got into that. And then he goes, and then this, and I read that response, that part of what I said to tell you his response. He says, the majority of Republicans are ignorant rednecks. Dude, we didn't even get five texts later. That's what Republican politicians have pandered to, and that's what they got. Trump has helped validate their racist.
Well, he just kind of like went away from his point by saying that, because it's like, if that's who they pandered to, that's who you're going to hear the most. That's who's going to be the loudest. That's who you're going to see as, oh, these are Republicans. You know? No one else. Just like Antifa. That's all liberals are not Antifa. It's like, all conservatives are not Proud Boys. Or whatever the fuck.
And so this is when I got kind of pissed off, because he kept taking those jabs at Republicans. I know a lot of Republican people. They're great people. They're my friends. They've never treated me anyway. And most Democratic people haven't treated me like shit until this guy. And then, so I said, that's a downright bullshit statement. And then I got snippy. I was like, again, liberal white elites thinking that their shit doesn't stink. That's when I got mad. I was like, you are this person.
Throwing it back at him, yeah.
Yeah, like you are I'm so frustrated by liberal white elites just thinking they know what's best for everyone. Oh, no, you black people. No, you can't do that. No, we got you. You can't do it without us. I'm tired of that coddling and that fucking, it makes me so mad. And he is the epitome of that.
But I got a question. Yeah. So when it comes to that, though, that brings me back to, like, isn't supporting a cause that's not necessarily yours a good thing? Like, aren't there people that are supporting it for the right reasons? And isn't that part of the problem, or has been in the past, that white people specifically, or I guess affluent people, have not been willing to support the lower class or minorities in general? And that was one of the whole reasons behind it. And getting that support was, I feel like, integral in making change happen, right? Absolutely. At some point. But what you're saying is the people that are virtue signaling about it, the people that are like, I understand what you're saying. And social media makes it so much worse too. It's so much worse by making it so much easier to do. Mm-hmm.
To virtual signal. Yep. And also too, yes, that white support was extremely necessary in getting legislation passed. But once we legislated racism out of law, I didn't need your help after that. I can do it on my own. And also too, like, a lot of the things that I believe welfare has absolutely crippled the black community. And those were liberal policies, progressive policies supported by mostly white people. So I'm saying now, always is just because a large percentage of white people support it, does it always mean it's going to be in the best benefit for you? And that's where, like, because welfare has, and again, like I said before, welfare did it anywhere you put welfare. You could put it in brown communities, white communities, Chinese communities. Welfare in and of itself just absolutely destroys groups of people. So that's what I was trying to get at. And he said, this is the most delusional thing that you've said.
Wow.
He said, okay, because I told him about thinking this shit doesn't stink. I said first I went, look, the Democratic Party has always and will always be the party of racists. I'm not gonna lie, I got mad. I said, and every time I talk to a liberal, I believe in that statement more and more. I got really mad, but it is a true statement that the Democratic Party for all of American history was where white nationalists and the KKK lay down their hats. It has always been that way.
Why is it not that way now?
I think it is. Okay. Personally. But a lot of people say, because Democrats claim they want to help poor black people, that demonstrates that they're not the party of racism anymore. I just think racism has changed its face in a certain way, and where it's like they kill you by kindness. They're like, here, take the welfare, take the government check, become like, let's break up your families by incentivizing the dad not to be there and for you to have more kids. Let's destroy your community. And somehow black people look at that and go, that's not racism. Anyway, whatever. That's a whole nother topic. And then he goes, my shit stinks and it's offensive that you call me a liberal elite. My family came from fucking nothing and we moved here from that just like your family did. This is the most delusional thing you said. So I was like, so why do you think it's okay to cast an entire group of people in such a judgmental light and mischaracterize what they think and what they believe, coming from a background like yours? And he said, because it's true. Oh, I love those lines.
Oh, facts. I forgot about facts.
Because it's true. I said, all right, bro. He said, go have a conversation with the vast majority of Cult 45. Every one of them chooses bullshit over reality. These are the same people that were screaming at that little black girl when they desegregated schools. And I said, that is a very small group of the population. Again, where you're taking a few conversations that you had with a few people and casting light over an entire group of people. And again, he can't see this. Never once did he.
It's also all the people that get the time in the media or on social media are the ones that are complaining the loudest. Like that is what you're going to see. That is what you're going to. It's up to you to know that that's not the entire group. And if you don't know that, that's also on you. That's fucked up. You didn't do your research.
Yes. So he goes, they just got older and had shitty kids that they indoctrinated with their same racist ideas. And then I got a little tongue in cheek and I said, there are like 10 racists left in America and you still have the gall to sit here and say that America is some racist country. We elected a black president, Kamala Obama. We elected a black president, most of the voters being white, and yet we're still living in a racist country. I'm like, how do you marry those two ideas together? Mm-hmm. And he goes, I haven't spoken to a single Republican in my lifetime that actually has presented a real argument for supporting the things that they do. Mm. I'm like, dude.
But it's like, it's also, as you said, it's not necessarily up to you to take the side that you're against. It's up to you to try your best to understand it and realize that there are differing opinions and you can't prove that yours is right.
Yes.
You just all right, so I'm not religious whatsoever. Mm-hmm. But how many fucking religions are there in the world? Mm-hmm. No one's ever, I hope at least, gonna be proven right, because that would be very bad for everyone. You can't, and yes, other religions hate on one another, but it's like, it's the same type of thing with the religion and politics, and maybe that's why they're so sensitive for people to fucking talk about. I don't get it, but it's that no one can ever be proven right.
Yes.
And it's just like, everyone loves a never-ending argument until they've had that argument for about 15 to 30 text messages, and they're like, all right, I gotta stop for now. But it happens in the Supreme Court. It happens every fucking where. And you know who normally wins? Whoever has more votes. Not that that's the right fucking thing either. Yep. It's just because it's the majority doesn't mean it's fucking right by any means. Shit. Correct. Pretty much everyone I grew up with was religious and Christian. I'm not that way. That is not for me. It doesn't mean they're wrong, but it also doesn't mean they're right. And I went a completely different way. Like, it's just up to you to navigate that. And
it's your life.
The navigating it, Like, if you're bad at that, those are the things you say. Those are the generalizations. I mean, shit, I hear this shit from, like, my parents, you know, sometimes because they're an older generation that are set in their ways most of the time, and they're not, you know, taking on new views. But at the same time, it's like you're going to get a different opinion out of everybody, and you got to navigate it in a better way than that. Not you, him.
No, so you hit on two things. Number one, you are absolutely right that in our country today, people don't have a religion, so they supplanted it with politics. So this is, I realized that far too late in this argument. I was arguing somebody's religion and not somebody's like separate entity of politics. Over
and
here,
he could
right?
view it as his religion and therefore be very up in arms about you disrespecting it, quote unquote.
Correct. But where I was not willing to concede is on facts. And one of those facts is him making claims like America is a racist country. I'm like, bruh, it makes no sense because it marginalizes people like me. When you look at me and all of the successful black people, I know he keeps, you're an anomaly. You're talking about the millions of black Americans who are doing fantastically in this country are all anomalies. The millions of Indians, Chinese, Japanese, and to me, that is so fucked up to go, oh, you guys are special cases. You guys got lucky. We allowed you to be lucky. The rest of these people need our help. I hate that idea. And he goes on to say, like, oh, so you're one of those people that thinks racism is dead in America. He said, my bad. I thought I was talking to someone who still lives in reality. Okay, now we're getting personal, right?
Yeah.
I said, do you know that the top 5 highest earning income groups in America are all non-white? Nobody knows what to do with that statement when I make it. Every time I make it, people Google it, they do whatever, and they figure, and I'm like, and they don't know, like, if America's racist, that could not make sense. That could not happen. Wouldn't white people be number one at everything if America was this racist country? That's what racism means.
Yeah, it's weird to say a racist country. That's especially with a country with so many different people in it. It's just not it can't be an accurate statement. You can't be a racist country and have a ton of different people in it. I mean, maybe if it was one other group of people, you could be a racist country. Like specifically, like we're nationally united against those other people that are in here. But you can't do that. Yes, there's racist people, and there always will be, just based on lack of information and just overall ignorance. But I don't think you could ever blanketly say there's a racist country.
Yeah,
I mean, I'd have to do some research, but it's definitely not America.
Dude, I looked at these numbers for so long. I pointed them out to Caitlin, and we talked to.
It's a generalization again.
Yeah, we talked about it for an hour. I was like, look, white Americans fell like out of like 100 groups of people fell at like 50 or 60. I'm like, yo, if this now, no, some at the top were German, Swedish, so those are people who are white, but they're not white Americans, right? So. But they still look white. But so I get how people would argue that. But I mean, the number one highest earning income group in America is Indians. Is it it's either Indian or some East Asian identity group? I forget. I think it's Indian American. Indians are the number one highest earning income group. But it wouldn't make sense in a racist country. And then the next one is like Indonesian. It's crazy. You look at the top 5 and you're like, none of them are white. None of them. So anyway. So instead of directly addressing that statement I made, he goes, LOL, keep living in your delusional reality then. Again, never addresses the fact.
Captain Generalize.
Yes. Never addresses the fact. Never goes, well, let me look that up. Is that true? What does that mean? Just says you're delusional. And I presented you with a fact. Okay, so whatever. And I said, how the hell can we live in a racist country and that still be the case? I said, deal with the facts, please. And then he said, what does that have to do with racism? I'm like, bruh, like, what do you mean, dude? I just told you that. Look, the whole idea behind living in a racist country is that the people who rise to the top will all be of one nationality and one race. And they would make sure that other people of other nationalities and other races stayed at the bottom. Now, if you have other races and other nationalities rising to the top, and not only rising to the top, the majority of the people at the highest are all non-white. Mm-hmm. That in itself is indicative that you don't live in a racist country. But I didn't have the wherewithal to explain it to him because I thought that was common fucking sense, bruh. So, and then I asked him a question, and this is the question we've discussed a few times on this podcast. I said, and this is the last point about racism. We'll go in and I'll move on to a different subject because I think it's always interesting. We've talked about this several times, and me and you always stick to the facts. You bring up stuff, I bring up stuff, but we always try to remain as factual as we can. What is consistent outside of me and you having conversations is that people ignore the facts and don't directly address them. So I presented to him, I said, if America was so racist, why do African immigrants and people from the West Indies come here and absolutely kill it financially and otherwise? The random white guy can't tell the difference between a black-born American and an African immigrant. So tell me, in your delusional reality, how does racism exist in these circumstances? And again, he goes, what facts? I'm like, what do I do at that point? When you're asking me what facts when I just gave you factual information?
Yeah. It's hard over text message, too, to have one of those debates, for sure.
It is. It's very hard. And he goes on to cite several examples. He says, this is what I kind of frustrates me about the progressive side. And it's not necessarily unique to the progressive side, but it's currently the prevailing way of arguing is they take the personal and extrapolate it to the general. So what he then goes on to say is he talks about several instances because we went to college together. So he talks about instances in where he would see people giving me the side eye. He said he tells me a story about how he had some friends come up and visit him and they had gotten into a fight or whatever and they came back all riled up and I had stopped by to pick up some weed and I was like, you're with your boys, so I bounced. And he's like, as soon as you closed the door and they knew you were gone, they were like, that nigger stole from you, he's a fucking nigger, don't ever trust them, blah blah blah. Jesus. And then yeah and he's like, I kicked them out and I never spoke to them again. And I was like, perfect. And I was like, here's the difference between me and you. I believe there are more people like you who disown them and kick them out than there are like those people. You see what I'm saying? Yeah. I believe there are far more people in this country that some shit like that would go down and they'd be like, fuck you, you racist assholes. As white guys, get the fuck out of my house. I want nothing to do with you. I believe there are far more of those people than there are of the people who like niggas steal, blah, 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 blah.
But wouldn't there have to be the exact same amount for that situation to come about? At least. What do you mean? Wouldn't they have to make the racist comment for there to be a person that would kick them out? So therefore, there would be the exact same amounts of racists as there are people that would kick them out.
No, because there could be there could be 5 racist guys saying something, and there could be one guy that says, get the fuck out of my house. There could be one racist guy who says, fuck niggas, and then 5 white guys say, go get the fuck out of my house.
Good point.
And I'm saying that the ratio is 1 to 5, that there's like one racist white guy for every 100,000 white men and women who'd be like, fuck you, you ignorant asshole. I just believe white people are good people. Just like black people, just like Indian people, just like Chinese people, I believe most people are nice, decent human beings that aren't racist.
I think that too.
Like, what the fuck? I don't think that's unreasonable, right?
No, not at all.
Okay, so all right, so let's move on off of the racist stuff. Okay, so more race stuff. Okay. Then how come ethically? Oh man, it's okay. So he goes, this is anecdotal. Is what racism being very real? All right, that's stupid shit. Goodness, this conversation about racism lasts so long. So long. And then I at one point I have this like kind of like epiphany, and I say to him, I think it's quite interesting how me and you could be who we are, and we have the beliefs that we do, because according to anyone outside of us, if you were to put our beliefs on paper, they would easily assume that your beliefs were mine and my beliefs were yours. Isn't that odd? Like, because he's advocating for racist, black people can't do nothing. But it's funny how on paper they would 100% assume that I was the one who held those beliefs and he was the one who held the opposite.
Yeah, most likely.
So let's go. And then he goes, this goes back to how history will look upon this. You're fine with that monster saying all the awful shit he does as long as he does whatever. I'm like, okay, whatever. Fuck that shit. Go look at the countless. Shit. Oh my God, most of this is horseshit. And then I told him I really wanted to vote for Andrew Yang, which is true. I've said this on this podcast multiple times, that if the Democrats had put up someone I wanted to vote for, I would have 100% voted Democratic. 100%. But they put up Joe Biden, who I didn't fuck with. And that's okay. That's what makes America America, right? I can still vote. Can I still vote for who I want to? Isn't that the country I live in?
Yeah.
Can't I vote for
who the
fuck
that's how it works.
Isn't that how it works, yo? Okay, so and then he goes, I say something about all Democrats because I want to be an asshole. And he says, and listen to the first lines of what he says. But saying that this is how all Democrats are is crazy. I said, what the fuck?
Captain Generalize over there.
I said, bruh.
Captain Hypocrisy.
I was like, isn't it ironic that you're telling me not to point the Democratic Party with a broad brush? So I'm like, what the fuck? Oh my God, bro. And I'm like, dude, I promise you there were 3 Democratic nominees. Had they won, I would have voted for them. But he's like, oh, no, you wouldn't have. I'm like, oh, okay. Now you tell me who I wouldn't have voted for. I vote for a Democrat any day of the week. If you think if you think racists are the reason Trump is in office, you're misinformed, obviously. And then he says, no, I think making half of America the enemy did. No one will say it to my face, but I know most of the Trump supporters I speak to believe in things that should definably make them hate me. And I'm like, hate you? I'm like, dude, you are a rich white guy. Who hates you? He turned the victim card on.
The fact that he had to say,
quick.
no one will say it to my face, that's another way of saying I have no evidence of this.
Yes. I
but in my heart, I feel it. Sorry, those heart feelings are not, that's not facts or evidence.
Bro, I have never seen a rich white dude try to play the victim card so quick. It was odd. It was so odd. He literally, from that point on, the whole conversation was about how he's the victim. So I said, where is it? It's more line for I think there's something.
I'm surprised you engaged in this conversation for this long. That's
it was fascinating. It was fascinating.
Like asking a serial killer questions.
So basically, I kind of got done with this. So I was like, so if I can summarize this conversation correctly, you apparently have it all figured out, and what you think and believe is the best way to think and believe, and anyone who does not think or believe in the way you do is a cult worshiper or an idiot. He's like, no, that's not what I'm saying.
Well, scroll back.
And then I asked him, I said, these are the 3 questions I asked him that I thought were very telling. I said, did you give my side of the equation any merit or credence? Did you at all suggest that you can maybe, if at all, see things from my point of view? Did you once say my arguments had any credibility or validate them in any way? And he goes, what side is that? So I said,
it's like talking to a brick wall.
Yeah, it's so wild. And then so here's where he ends the friendship. I almost said his name. I said, I'm willing to concede on the Trump argument in all types of ways. We can have a long discussion and we will see that we agree on a lot of different things. The part I am most concerned about is this discussion about thinking that America's a racist country. That's where our main disagreement lies. And he says, I don't remember too many other people in power using unmarked vans to grab people off the street with federal agents. And he goes, that's a very small part of the case I'm making in regards to race. He said, keep in mind, I've been moving the conversation elsewhere because I'm much more concerned with what Trump is to America than I am with racism. But he is also the primary reason we have white supremacist groups out in the open again. And people don't point to that Proud Boy movement with their token-ass leader pretending like it's anything other than a movement to validate racists. I just won't sell my soul to someone like Trump. I don't know how, as smart as you are, you can look past how clearly awful of a person he is, and that's what has me drawing the line. I said, I guess, well, you got to do what you got to do, man. Can't blame you. Life's short. I still respect you and your opinion. Keep living your best life, my guy.
Jesus.
I'm assuming he's gonna stop. I'm assuming this is where the conversation ends, and he's like, "Listen, man, this is how he knows he's being an asshole." He goes, "Listen, man, you can take the high road all you want. The politicians you support do the talking for you, and it's unfortunate you'd associate yourself with that. I'm not the enemy here, man, but they think I am, and you let them do it." I said, I have never thought you were the enemy, never once. I don't think Democrats or liberals are the enemy. It takes both parties working together. I'm all for passionate disagreement and trying to find the truth. I will never cut someone off for what they believe. And he says, the point still stands. You support people that hate me as a human and that can't stand for me. That's where I draw the line. You don't get to pretend you are disconnected from what the people you vote for do. It just means you are outsourced it to someone else. You can claim to take the high road. It's insulting, man. I'm like, yo. And then he's like, I'm not cutting it off because you're a Republican. You choose to actively support people that hate me and some perverted version of America, which in turn makes me the enemy. I'm not a Democrat. I just like to think that it's up to a woman to make decisions about her own body, and perhaps that the system is unfair for some. Apparently that makes me un-American, and you sit quietly by acting like they aren't literally speaking on your behalf. Dude. And
sounds exhausting.
It's so crazy. And I'm like, you're entitled to your beliefs, blah, blah. I was like, I'll make sure I keep you in my thoughts and prayers. And next time I'm volunteering, and then I go, and then this is where it gets good. Okay. All right, this is where it gets good. I said, that's fair. You're entitled to your beliefs. This whole idea that what I believe in makes you the enemy is literally insane to me. You're in the top 1% of this world. I'm sure you're feeling really hated and oppressed over there.
Oh my God, yeah.
I was like, I'll make sure I keep you in my thoughts and prayers the next time I'm volunteering at a homeless shelter. Little did I know they had it so hard in the suburbs of Connecticut.
I'm sure he did not like that.
He did not like that shit. He said, he's like, oh, my bad. I didn't realize it wasn't okay to stand against people who are adamantly speaking out against my values. Like I'm the person who's ruining this country. And I was like, don't worry, man. I'll tell all my boys and my family in Southeast DC you need their thoughts and prayers. I was like, they had no idea it was so hard. They'll be in disbelief.
Oh, man. And then, Connecticut's rough.
And he's like, and I was like, don't worry. I'll make sure they recognize and he's like, I'm sure your thoughts and prayers will help all those locked up children. I was like, and then this is where and so I'm like, I'm done being an asshole, and this crossed my mind. I was like, I genuinely want to ask him this question. I say, can I ask you something on a real level? I'm kind of being an asshole right now because it's too easy. But when's the last time you volunteered or had an in-person conversation with someone who was not in your same income bracket? He said, I don't do charity. Yeah.
What? Oh God.
Do you see this?
I don't know this guy, but I'm done with him. I'm done with him. Tell him I'm not his friend either anymore.
He said, when's the last time you interacted with someone who was poor? He said, that shit is just the government failing at their primary objective and expecting suckers like you to give up what little time they have so they don't have to take responsibility. Most charities are scams anyway, so go on thinking your little echo chamber thoughts, because I clearly have never had to deal with or interact with poverty and destitution. Dude. He said, honestly, dude, you showed your true colors. Go fuck yourself. Because you know why he did that? Ooh. Because I checkmated him.
Yeah.
I said, and this is where I'll stop going on about the conversation because it gets into transgenderism and all that other shit. But I'll stop it right there because that's when I knew I had checkmated him. I said, when is the last
personal attacks instead of having an actual response?
Yep, when he told me to go fuck yourself. Because I literally, he has not, Andrew, I shit you not, he has not been around someone who makes less than $250K in at least 10 years.
That's a lot.
Outside of me. Outside of me, and I make pretty good money, so I don't even really think I count. But he has not interacted on a human level with someone who's just downright.
So he's just taking it from news he's read, basically, or social media posts, basically.
Right.
Yeah,
correct. And I said, I'm like, dude, how can you relate to these people? Look, last year he got like an itch, and he went out and just randomly bought a brand new BMW. He was like, man, I just really want a BMW. I was like, I asked him, how can a person who can buy a BMW on a whim relate to the guy who's blue collar working in a factory all day? How can you ever relate to what their concerns are? And he's like, I worked hard for my money. And I said, I know you have. As a matter of fact, I know you've worked harder than most people I've ever come across in my life. But what that hard work and money has afforded you, it has afforded you distance from those type of people. And you are so removed from them that you can't conceptualize what actually matters to these people in their everyday lives.
Yeah.
Can't you imagine this motherfucker said, I don't do charity?
Yeah, that was telling, very telling. Just for that to be your response.
What? Because and your excuse is because the government fucks up the funds.
That should be more of a reason to do it.
Yes,
because we can't count on our own government to do it.
That's why you do it. You think I'm out here doing charity because I believe in the government? I'm doing it because I don't believe in those motherfuckers.
Yeah, right.
I do it because I don't know what one conversation, what one random act of kindness, I don't know how fundamentally that can change somebody's life.
Ripple effect.
You have no idea. And I'm not out here trying to change the entire poverty equation in America. I'm trying to help one person. If I can help one person, I know you donate a ton of fucking money. Yeah, okay. Someone like you might not have volunteered recently. That's okay. You give a significant part of your income to charity. That counts just as much. If you're not going to give your time, give your money. If you're not going to give your money, give your time. We have this shit mapped out. We got that.
There's so many ways to do it too.
We have an equation.
I literally downloaded an app the other day where you can sign up for subscription-based things to provide meals to people in other countries that don't. Yeah, like, and it's just dude. And it was just like, Google Pay. Oh, yep. They just took out 50 cents. Oh, that's nothing. I could do that. I could do that for a lot of different people. Yeah.
Somebody's gonna eat, and he's saying I ain't gonna do that because the government and
he's not seeing the right return on his investment. I guess.
Like, what the fuck?
You're supposed to get that return in the way it makes you feel to help others, and the way it makes them feel to be helped.
Yes, and the what you could do. You don't know if that poor kid you help in Gunwave in New Haven. That's what they call New Haven, Connecticut.
Okay.
You don't know whether that one kid in Gunwave in New Haven who's extremely poor, who has no role models, if you take him under your wing, provide him a place to stay some nights, provide him a couple meals and his mother some funds every month, do you know what type of impact you would have on that kid's life and his future? He may be the next Steve Jobs. He may be the next Bill Gates. He might be the next Barack. You have no idea. Yeah. And the fact that you have the fucking audacity to say that you don't do fucking charity, everything you have said before that and after that is a moot point.
Yeah, I agree.
You have lost all credibility. You have lost all credibility to speak with any authority on what it means to help people and what it means to do good for people.
Sound like he was mostly just regurgitating, news stories that he read.
That's it, bro. You are virtual signaling because you're a rich white dude with money and you don't want to actually get your hands dirty. So how best can you fucking do that? You could just, black people, racism, poverty, oh my God, what are we going to do? And you know what that enables you to do in today's world? You don't have to spend a fucking dime and you don't have to give an ounce of your time.
Yeah.
You don't have a single second. As long as you post a black square, I'm good.
Yeah, no risk there.
And you know what I did? You know what I did to him? I challenged him. I said, that black square ain't shit. That virtual signaling ain't shit. It doesn't mean anything to me if you don't put in the fucking time. And this whole time, he thought, I'm saying the right thing. I'm good. And I literally fundamentally said, you ain't shit, bruh. That's why he was so mad. That's why he was so fucking mad.
Most likely, yes.
All you're doing is just like fucking playing cards with ideas. When I'm out here living that life, bruh.
Yeah, just shuffling them around to make them look like your own.
Doing something.
Yeah.
I'm like, bruh, I my family lives in Southeast DC. And I'm not taking my personal experience for I'm not extrapolating it to the general public. But I had to bring him to reality. I was like, bruh, you know me. I grew up in the trap, bro. Like, I know trap niggas. I see trap niggas every time I go home. I know this shit intimately, bro. I'm not talking from some fucking ivory tower about what I think people in the trenches are living like. I see this shit, bro. And he got, oh, that's some ignorant, like, pretend gangster shit. I'm like, okay, you could take it that way if you want, but I'm just literally trying to demonstrate to you that I interact with people that you claim to be helping. I actually fucking touch them, bro.
Mm-hmm.
And you sitting there saying you think you're right because you can post a black square from your couch. Like, what? This is he literally embodies everything that frustrates me about our country right now. It's everybody thinks they could tweet something and then the hard work is done, bro. You can't just something or post something and that or regurgitate what your party says and then that makes you a good person. That's not how this shit works, man. Mm-hmm. You gotta put your feet to the fucking pavement. You gotta talk with your money. You gotta speak with your time and your effort. That's when people respect you, not just because you espouse some beliefs you heard on CNN, man.
I agree.
And it's funny because I listen to people like Dave Rubin. He's been on Joe Rogan, I think, before, and you know him as a podcaster. And he calls himself a classical liberal. Like, he's always been super liberal, always voted Democratic. But recently, he has just had an awakening. Like, he calls himself, like, I don't want to call myself a Republican, mm-hmm. but that's the only place I have a home. And that's where I find myself as well. I'm like, I have so many liberal, I'm classically liberal. Like, my beliefs now, 20 years ago, would have made me an extreme left person. But today, I'm a Republican, which is so weird to find myself in that position. And he was saying the same thing as well. And he was talking about all the friends he's lost by adopting these views and beliefs. And I thought, man, I was like, I know it happens out there, but like that ain't going to happen to me. Mm-hmm. And then this shit happened, bro. And I was like, damn, son.
It could happen to anybody.
Yeah, I was like, I really lost it. He told me we can't be friends anymore because we disagree politically. Ooh,
that's a rough one. It's weird because I've had that exact, like, a conversation with a group of friends that I've known since high school, just saying, like, you know, I remember we all got together in, like, June when all this shit was going off, like, you know, the big protests and stuff. It was right when, obviously, COVID was hitting everybody really hard, but that was right after the George Floyd stuff. Mm-hmm. And I mean, there were 5 of us there and we all had a debate about it. And then I remember, I think it was my cousin who's in that group of friends sending a text to us all like that Monday, like after the weekend, saying like, just so happy that I can have friends that I can disagree with on these topics, you know, but we're still very close. And it's just like, yeah, it's very valuable to have. I mean, that's what we do. I mean, that's how you, it's how you evolve, really, is how you have those debates, but in a civil manner, which is, you know, harder sometimes with others than some.
Yeah, and I've constantly thought about our friendship for a long time, and I'm like, we're separated by great distance, not great distance, but we're separated by distance. It would be very easy for us to stop talking and stop communicating, mm-hmm. and just like really just going on about our lives like normally, you know. And I always ask myself, I'm like, why do we remain friends? And it's easy. I think primarily it is because we disagree. I think that's why we remain such good friends, because I know no matter what, if you think an idea of mine is bullshit, you're gonna fucking tell me.
Yeah, I don't like to not say things that I think because it hurts my brain to leave them in there.
I know 100% you're not gonna sugarcoat it. You're gonna be like, nah, I fucking disagree. Not only that, you're gonna argue with me tooth and fucking nail until we're both screaming at each other. But then I have to go back and go, all right, maybe, I don't know, maybe he had a fucking point.
Yeah, I do the same thing.
I can fucking guarantee that nothing insane that comes out of my mouth will go unchallenged by you. And I think that's what the foundation of our friendship is and what has always been, which is why it has been able to sustain. And this whole idea that you should only be surrounded by people you fucking
yes men, no. Can't be surrounded by yes men, you know, all the time. That's number one thing you got to know about friends is like you got to have people that are going to be real with you about things. It's not going to ever. I don't think I'm friends with anyone who does that. because it's almost like a thing you can tell naturally right away. Mm-hmm. Like, they're holding back. Mm-hmm. But most of the people that I'm closest with are the people that are like, dude, that's real fucking stupid. You should not think that. I'm like, oh shit, fuck. Let me go. Did I read that wrong? Damn, I might have not read that whole article. Maybe I read the headlines. So true, but it's like that, and that's also how my family is though too. Like, and maybe that's obviously where it comes from. But I mean, my fucking mom doesn't pull any goddamn punches. Like, our whole lives, she's told us exactly what she thought at any given moment. And that goes back to, you know, her parents, and I'm sure their parents who I didn't know. But yeah, I mean, it just, it's goes way back. But yeah, that's what you need, is someone who's going to set you straight, whether that's, I mean, that's what I get from my wife now as well. That's why Lydia and I work so well. She puts me in my place when I'm out of place.
If it's dumb, my girl's gonna tell me it's dumb 100% of the time. 100%.
And I'm not gonna like it, but I'm gonna
I hate it.
Ponder it. Deeply.
Yeah. And I think that's what makes good relationships, is people, because I need to know, because what that indicates to me is that in a time of crisis, I could look to you and count on you to give it to me real. In a time of crisis, that is exactly
and that's probably what it does all come down to. It's like, who would you, like, if I had a real thing that's a life impacting that I needed to talk to someone about, would this person be a good person to ask about that?
Exactly.
Whether it's based on experience, but it's mostly based on straightforwardness. Even if they don't have experience, it's like, well, put yourself in these shoes.
Yes.
I know you can do that, so let me know what you think.
Yes, I can. It in its own way, it lets me know that I can count on you. I've never even got to this point of the thinking until this conversation, and this is why I love having conversations, because I'm thinking through talking, and it lets me know that you are reliable in its own way. Just through talking with you, I can tell you are dependable.
You're reliable because you call me on my shit. Correct, it's so simple.
Correct.
So vital, yet so simple.
It's such a fundamentally simple thing.
Yeah.
But if I have someone that is constantly agreeing with me, I never know if shit hit the fan. I can't confidently look at them and say, you're telling me something that will save my life, because it may come down to that.
Yeah.
Save my life, save my finances, save my marriage. I can count on you. If I came to you and said, look, I'm thinking about fucking like 3 women and not telling my girl, I can count on you to go, dude.
Okay. All right. Thank you, bro. I see some advantages, but mostly a lot of big disadvantages. Have you written this out on a pros and cons list? One would be much longer than the other.
Yeah. You see what I'm saying? Like, I can come to you in a time that my life in some way, not necessarily life or death, but like in a path in which my life can go, and it's a critical decision. I can depend on you in this instance to give me an opinion that will make my movement smoother.
Someone that's going to consider the facts. Someone that's going to like actually put thought into it. Yeah.
Yes.
Yep.
Correct. And that's why this stuff is so important. And you know, it's ironically what I've been thinking about, right? Is that I wonder how he's going to explain us not being friends anymore to his family. Ooh. Because think about this, right?
That's rough.
Yes, I'm pretty sure.
I'll have to make something up.
I'm almost 100% sure I'm his only black friend that he consistently speaks to. So how do you tell your family I'm no longer friends with the black guy because of the things he believed in? I had to cut the one black guy out of my life because he didn't agree with me. He will never tell the true story of how we're not friends anymore.
Yeah, probably not. Yeah, no, that would be too detrimental.
Isn't that ironic? Why are you not friends with Ray anymore? He didn't believe what I believed. So you claim to be for black people, you claim to be for minorities, and you cut the one minority out of your life, not because he did anything vile to you, took advantage of you, said something about your mother, because he thought differently than you.
Yeah.
That is rich.
Thought crimes.
That is rich, man. And it's fascinating. I never thought this would happen, because I always considered him a very open-minded individual. He had very tight beliefs, but I could usually sway him on things. But I never thought it would come to this, and how gung-ho he was about, I now have to cut you off because we have a difference of opinion. I think the reason I kept going with the conversation was pure fascination.
Oh yeah, yeah. I see the fascination for sure.
Pure fascination, bro. It just kept, and he kept saying, I'm not a Democrat, but everything a Democrat or an extreme leftist would believe, he believed in those things. And I'm like, it was like, at least on me, you could get some fluidity, in my opinion.
Yeah.
You could get some things that are completely Democrat, some things that are completely Republican. I got nothing conservative out of you once.
Yeah.
But, I'm an independent. Keep telling yourself that, bro.
Oh, is that what he says? Independent?
Oh, yeah, he claims to be an independent. I'm for no party.
I don't think, yeah, I mean, you can do that, but it's
yeah.
Nah.
But he's voted Democrat his whole life. He only believes in democratic values, but he's an independent. I don't know how that works.
Yeah, some people just don't like to claim it or don't like a title, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
I don't want to call you my girlfriend. I just, we're just hanging out.
You're the bitch that's always here.
Let's not ruin it. Let's not ruin it with labels.
Yeah, that's how I describe you to everybody else. Who's
that? Oh, God. Damn. All right, man. Well, we don't have a ton of time left because my stomach's making noises that I know I said that last time, but I'm starving right now. It's also because I do intermittent fasting, so I haven't eaten anything today yet.
Oh, yeah. I gotta start that again.
Two things. Did you listen to any of the Cudi album yet?
Of course.
I went through it again today because I was trying to find a song for this, and I feel like through these headphones, music just hits differently. And I was just like, oh my God, I want to put all of these. Like even
the intro for me, bro, is just so slow,
yeah, because I didn't even realize it was going into that Tequila Shot song. Yeah. I was working out right when I first heard it. I was like, wait a second, I thought I was playing a different song, and it was such a sweet transition right into it. But hold on, the one track. Because it's Man on the Moon 3, right? Mm-hmm. So Mr. Solo Dolo 3? Yeah. Dude, I love that song too. Like, it's just, I don't know.
Cudi went back to his roots on this one.
Yeah, he did. And the funny thing is, I haven't finished the album because I got to multiple songs. I've almost put every song from the album in order on my playlist that I get songs I like onto. So I've just been going back through them like, oh yeah, this is a good one. And I haven't even made it to like the last probably 4 or 5 songs yet.
It's the reprieve I needed from 2020.
Yeah, it did. It is
the reprieve
very
I needed.
helpful. Lots of Cudi humming. So that's what I need.
About to go number 12.
Oh God. And then the only other thing one, if the Colts win today, I win our bet. But also, it's the first week of fantasy playoffs. I'm in the playoffs per usual in my brother's league. I always lose. I've never won the championship. I always do well. I was second most points scored by 15 points. Like I was that far from being top point scored. And the only other team with a power ranking higher than me this week in my fantasy analysis app is the team I'm playing. The 4 seed, and I'm the 5 seed.
Yeah.
And then, of course, going into today, Myles Gaskins got COVID yesterday. How the fuck? I needed you. All right, so my receivers, just so you know, are DK Metcalf.
Against the Jets, that's a solid pick.
Bro. Yeah, I mean, he's just been that guy all year. But Russ has not been, which has been not good.
Russ fell off significantly after week 5.
Michael Thomas is my other wide receiver. So those are my number 1 and 2. And then I have Deontay Johnson as my flex, who has just been the best wide receiver on the Steelers, period, this year. Yeah. I have Travis Kelce as my tight end. So, yeah, we're doing good things. I got the Bucs defense against Minnesota, who's the number 25th ranked offense, so we should be good there. Yep. But I got Phillip Rivers at quarterback.
Against who? Indy's playing
Vegas, and they're not great on pass defense.
No, you should be good.
Yeah, all right, but this is where I'm concerned. I have, because of Gaskins being out, I now have Wayne Gallman for the Giants, who's been really good the last.
Starting running back now.
Huh? Yeah, he's been great. He's actually my best running back currently based on what's been happening. Because I also have Clyde Edwards-Helaire, who started last week and didn't get a single carry.
Fell off a cliff.
But he also didn't practice all week, so that makes sense. So it's either I have to start him.
3 games where he has just been like absent.
So it's either him. This is where it gets so bad. It's either him, Gurley, who is just so inconsistent, but he has.
He's the leading back.
He's playing the Chargers, whose rush defense is awful. Mike Davis, who McCaffrey's once again not playing, so might start. And then I have a Washington player on my team for the first time fucking ever, McKissick.
Yeah,
so,
McKissick.
Yeah, I'm just like, I don't know.
And who do the Redskins play this week?
San Fran.
I wouldn't start McKissick.
They're the number 7 rush defense, so yeah. But the bad thing is, say there's a top 6 running backs this week. Say there's 6, there always are. The guy I'm playing has 3 of those top 6. But his wide receivers are McLaurin and Tyler Boyd, and I have Metcalf and Michael Thomas. So I'm up on but he has Derrick Henry, Nick Chubb, and James Robinson.
Oh, man, bro.
But all right, so last week he beat me handily, scored like 190 during the regular season when we played, and I think I put up like 170. So ridiculous. Last week he had 90 points total with this squad.
This squad. Had a really bad day.
Most of them had a bad day, and I had 170 again. So I'm consistently putting up these numbers. Yeah. I just need him to be like an average of those 2 scores actually that he had.
Who does Tennessee play again this week?
They have Derrick Henry right now. Whoever has him in whatever fantasy league you're in, anyone is in, he is set up to carry them to the promised land of the championship because his next 3 opponents are Jacksonville, Detroit, and Green Bay. And then Houston, but you don't need that last week of the season. But yeah, he plays 28, 32, 30, and 31 in terms of rush defenses the next couple weeks.
Derrick Henry is going to eat this week.
He's a monster.
He's going to eat against Jacksonville.
All I can hope is that he gets a concussion or like I don't know. They pass a lot.
The only thing that helps, like against the Browns, they got down so much that it was just.
That's what I need. I need Jacksonville to just put up points. Yes,
you need them to get down. And here's the thing you have going for you: Tennessee's secondary is abysmal. Yeah. They have no.
And Jacksonville has some receivers, and they throw all the time.
Yeah, they throw a lot.
But I also don't want James Robinson to score for Jacksonville. Please. It's $1,000 to the fucking first place of this league, and I want it.
Yeah,
I've been in this league for 8 to 10 years now and never won. And
it's giving up money.
It's yes,
donating.
It's bad. It's real bad. I should be winning. I have a stacked team.
Dude, my team is so bad. I don't even want to talk about it. My team was so trash. I told you this before. I'm not doing full roster.
Yeah, you're just doing like daily now.
I'm just doing weekly fantasy. That's it.
The guy I'm playing in the playoffs is the guy I know that put $5 on a FanDuel and won $30,000.
Yep, it happens, bro.
I know, but the bad thing is I'm playing him this week, so dude, he has that knowledge, and I don't want him to.
I told you over the Thanksgiving games. I don't think I might have told you this, but I put $1 in and I was winning $5,000 until one play.
Oh, you did say that, yeah.
Until
that sucks.
One play.
That is, yeah. I hate those contests because they tell you what place you're in, especially like right at the beginning. You're like, oh fuck, I'm in first place right now after that touchdown. I'm winning $5,000.
There's like a whole second half of game to play, dude.
And then you forget that you picked the late game window plus Monday, so then there's Monday players, and you go from first to fucking 50th all of a sudden, like because everyone had Patrick Mahomes and you didn't for some reason.
Exactly. Dude, I'm telling you, I was so blown.
I fucking hate that.
I love FanDuel because you can put in literally $1 here, $2 there.
Yeah, it is nice.
Potential to win so much money.
Yeah, I need to get back into it more. Maybe once the playoffs are over, I'll do playoff FanDuel or whatever. But it is hype.
The dope thing about the playoffs is that your number ones and your number twos get all the targets and the carries. So when you get those like Thursday night, the reason I was in it in the Thursday night game because like it's a very small portion of teams to study. I need to study 6 teams. Perfect. I can do that. That's so easy. But when it's like studying 32
the whole day, the whole day of Sunday, basically,
Who is Henry Ruggs going to score a touchdown with
on
7
this guy?
Like this shit is so hard, right?
It's ridiculous. Yeah, well, football's almost over, but we'll be back to talk more about it.
So, I mean, NBA.
I know, dude, they didn't have any time off.
LeBron, Kawhi, they're not going to play for like another 2 months.
Oh, yeah. Of course. Yeah, especially, I mean, he's getting older, LeBron, so he's got to take time. So.
He can't play. He can't play.
Yeah.
If you want the best LeBron, which is what makes the NBA go
round.
Dude,
it takes him a while every year now to get spun up.
He ramps up in the playoffs, wins a championship, then through the first like 50 games, he's just coasting.
Yeah, and if he gets hurt during that time, it could be the whole season's over. So you got to ease him into it, as they noticed from their first year with him. I think when he was on the Lakers.
He's a couple years away from playing with his son, right?
Oh God.
Yep.
Has that ever happened?
Nope.
It happened in baseball, but I would think NBA it probably hadn't happened yet. I don't think that's probably happened anywhere but baseball. Griffey and his dad played together on the Mariners.
Because you could go like 20 years consistently in baseball.
Yeah, he was. Yeah, and he might have been 19 or 8. Actually, Griffey I think was 18 when he came in. That was because baseball, you don't even have to go to college. Like that was because that's new for the NBA, obviously. And it's so fucking stupid. Because it was like what I remember. It was right after like Carmelo came out and LeBron that they put that in around that time frame. You know,
because those colleges wanted that money.
And I remember because Dwight Howard, he was one of those last ones too. He came out at 18.
Yep. They wanted that little piece. Like no.
But I mean, you see in baseball, they sign 16-year-olds.
Yeah,
they sign them.
It's like if you're going to dedicate your life to this, you might as well start as early as you can.
If you're a baseball scout, you need to spend time in the Caribbean, getting to know kids at age like 12, 13, and then you're like, I could take you places.
Yeah. That whole thing is just the NBA, the basketball, college basketball. Like I love college athletics. But I literally think college basketball would actually be better if you took that out. People are like, oh, these one players coming
on that recently.
Yeah. Oh, what, college basketball? I got a friend who does too.
Dude, Richmond is good this year.
Yeah,
U of R? Yeah, they beat Kentucky last weekend or 2 weekends ago, and then tonight.
Let's simmer down. Kentucky's trash.
Okay, but we'll see. They have an actual challenge tonight. I think it's West Virginia. No, it's at 1. I might watch that. Oh, the Colts don't play till 5. Yeah, U of R plays West Virginia at 1.
That's gonna be a good game. I'm probably
West Virginia's number 11. Yeah, I think I'm gonna check it out too. Yeah. Oh shit! I'm gonna put money on that too. Oh shit! All right, man. I gotta go eat before all this football craziness starts. So
for sure, man.
It was a good one. We'll try to record again within the next week or so.
Yeah, let's do it, man. And to all the people still listening, appreciate y'all.
Yep, and we're out.